Lauren, you better wake up. I need a jet plane to take me non-stop. I can't stay in New York City when there's sunshine and fun in my country. Lions is the place with the jamming, with Carrie and Charlie's roots clashing. Everyone happy partying, and I'm freezing in Brooklyn. Darling, Lauren, don't cry, I'm leaving. I can miss this charming with all that steel band beating and no one background shaking. If you don't fight your baby, then you could come and join me inside Canadian steel band, jamming with some man woman.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Lauren, you'll take it easy. I don't mean.
Thank you for being here, everyone. Yes, happy Thursday and happy New Year. That is our blackety black. I'm black and I'm black and I'm blackety black, y'all. New Year, otherwise known as Black History Month, if you will. So I'm going to start with a little Sankofa, a little bit of looking back, and then I'm going to end at the end of our show with some very exciting news. So I hope that you're going to stick with us for the whole vibe. So first of all, I want to send some celebratory ancestral energy to the Explainer, the singer of that song that we were just listening to. He passed away this last October at 74 beautiful years, but the Explainer was an icon, an absolute icon. His song, Lorraine, that we lovingly call Don't Cry, I'm Leaving, that's like a top track of my childhood. It's the soundtrack of my childhood that tied me to the strongest desires of my family, us in the diaspora, our parents, our aunties, our uncles and cousins. Yes, all they wanted was to be back home with the people and the food and the music, all the culture that we love. And that song really, really sums up that love for me and for so many of us. So yes, ancestral love to the Explainer, gone, but thanks to that song and so many others, never forgotten. And speaking of family love, just a reminder that on February the 19th, which is the Sunday of Family Day weekend, we're hosting Let 'em Eat Laughs Live on stage comedy show. And there is so much to love about this particular event. The food, the drinks, the people, and the jokes. The show takes place at Toronto's Taste of Life restaurant at 5 p.m. With your $30 advance ticket, you can get a delicious appetizer at no additional cost at all. It's included. And if you have a date, you can get 2 tickets online for $50. So a good discount and 2 appetizers for 2 people. Come on now. Come on. You know that's a deal, right? That is a deal. You're going to fill up your belly with good food and with a healthy serving of jokes from comedy heavy hitters, including Lady Day, Cliff Knight, and our headliner, Crystal Ferrier, alongside myself, NOJ, just happy to be there. Tickets are already on sale on Eventbrite. You can take up a picture, pick up a ticket, at the venue, and you can find more details at linktree/bishfunny. Now, back to Don't Cry, I'm Leaving. Tonight, our guest is John Paul.
A little bit about myself. I'm from a pretty religious Caribbean family, so much so that over Easter, my aunt gave me a Jesus clock. And I know that doesn't sound weird, but it's actually Jesus on the cross. And it's kind of awkward. I mean, if it isn't 9:15 or 3:45, I don't really know where to look.
Yes, John Paul is our guest tonight, also known as Tobago Slim. At least that's what I'm just learning. And I really hope that there's a decent story behind that. John Paul is a Trinbagonian comedian, heavily seasoned with the taste of what we call Toronto, rumor has it that he wanted to be a pilot, but now he's a well-known comedian. So he has and continues to travel the world from Canada to the USA, South America, South Africa, the UK, and all about the Caribbean. And he doesn't even have to fly the plane. He could just sit there in VIP and sip Cola champagne, I'm sure. He's performed everywhere, and I really do mean everywhere, from, small bars to big stadiums, sidewalks to festivals, from Zoom, TV, films on the small and the big screen, and everything in between. He's been at this for over 20 years. We have so much more to see, and we just can't wait. So let's welcome to Let 'Em Eat Laughs, our guest, John Paul.
Good evening to everybody out there who's watching and partaking in the Let Them Eat Laughs. You know what I mean? So good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Yes, thanks for being here.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, before I get into your business, I just want to ask, what was for dinner tonight?
Tonight, I haven't eaten yet, but it has baked chicken upstairs. Because I didn't, you know what it is? I didn't want to eat, and then the itis kicked in, and then you're asking me questions, and well, Gil, it is me. So I figured I'd rather have some energy.
Yeah, well, that's very thoughtful. Very thoughtful of you.
So, but earlier I had some. What did I have today? I don't even know what I ate today. Some lentils.
Yes.
Some lentils and some brown rice, and that's pretty much it for the most part.
Good. You sound like a healthy man.
I'm trying to be healthy again, because I'm genuinely a healthy person. But because I've been so busy over the last little while, the scale has kind of figuratively and literally has kind of just, you know what I mean? So now I'm trying to bring it back down to what a normal state and normal practice looks like, as far as trying to be healthy and eat proper and work out and all that and get sleep.
Oh, okay. So you mean like an actual healthy, not just a Caribbean healthy, where it's instead of 4 rum for breakfast, I'm just going to have 2 rum?
No. Rum is an aperitif.
Yes. Digestif. It's necessary. It's medicine.
Right?
But we're going to talk more about that later. So let's get in your business.
Yeah, bring thing. I have nothing to hide.
So you were born in Trinidad,
yes,
raised in Brooklyn.
So let me clarify that, because everybody asked me that. So it's a combination of the immigrant thing. So born in Trinidad, and then we moved to Toronto. Okay. And then we moved back to Trinidad, and I did all the right common entrance and went secondary school for a little bit. And then my dad got a job in Manhattan. So we decided, so obviously we followed, and we were in Brooklyn for a bit. And the plan was to move to New Jersey, but my mom, being typical Trini woman, was like, I don't like the violence in New York. Let me move back to Toronto where it's safe. And then, so I was in Brooklyn for a minute, and then moved back to Toronto. And that's pretty much where I've been ever since. But the Brooklyn thing sounded cooler when I first started comedy, because I was thinking, hopefully I could get back to the US and be things. So, but for whatever reason, it was in a news interview article, I think for Now Magazine. And ever since then, it's just stuck, even though I've edited my bio and thing. So Brooklyn, I have a hint of Brooklyn, but I'm predominantly Trini in Toronto. So Trinidad in Toronto is
I was curious about that, because I was like, I'm pretty sure that Toronto had claimed you hard, right?
Yes.
And I was like, I didn't know if I had to go fight somebody on Flatbush Avenue.
So, but in the beginning, it sounded better for, and again, when you start anything that you figure that would differentiate you from the pack. Else. You know what I mean? And for some reason, I can't believe that's the thing that stuck. So
you're right. That is the typical immigrant experience. Although if I thought that was of any use in my comedy career, I need to add that. Like, does it help that we went shopping for school supplies on Flatbush every year at Labor Day? Does that help the career?
We still used to. Before COVID, we were at Target right through at the end of Flatbush there, right on Avenue J, right there. Everything, man. My kids loved going to Target. Target, sorry, because they wanted to be bougie. So.
Well, I'm thankful to your mom that you made it back here.
Me too.
Yes.
Me too, Gail. Me too, yes. So.
All right. So growing up, you know, in the Trini household, lots of responsibilities. Did you have to cook much as a child?
No.
No?
I will be. I'm an only child, by the way. And I'll be the first to admit I'm still my mother's spoiled child, and so the most I have. But again, I'm still to this day I'm super low maintenance. I had the responsibilities that everybody else had. You know, I locked the shoelace key, what do they call them, latchkey kid.
Latchkey kid, yes.
I was a latchkey kid. And most I had to do was take out chicken and meat to thaw before my parents got home. And I was always good with, like I said, I made the weirdest sandwiches. I made fried corn sandwiches. The grossest sandwich that I've ever made that I was addicted to for a while, I'm not even making this up, was bread and soya sauce. That was my thing. That was a thing. And then you always had guava jelly and anything, and guava jelly and peanut butter. You know what I mean?
Okay, so, but not guava jelly with the soy sauce.
No. That was its own thing. And okay. I liked eating, oddly enough, tomatoes. So I was self-sufficient until my parents came home, and then, then mommy would cook and ting ting ting, and then we would eat. But again, I was always a skinny small kid, and so eating was I was too wild to eat. I was too wild to eat. So, but
yeah, I think that's true of a certain Generation X type vibe, because I know for me, I'm not an only child, but if I came inside, there were going to be chores to be done and there was going to be responsibilities. So I spent as much time outside as humanly possible.
But we were allowed to be outside back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, outside. Inside had no nothing.
And then they used to rush you outside. Go outside now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they used to rush me out and things. So, but I had to be back by a certain time, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, or else is the
yeah. We've had a lot of different things mentioned on this show. I'm just like this. You may have knocked out our contender, because on our very, very first show when we started this podcast, we had a Jamaican New Yorker, and she basically melted the internet that day talking about bakes and syrup on a Sunday morning. And I thought I almost got canceled on my first show, because the whole of the world of Caribbean people just rose up like, bakes and syrup? What is that? But I feel like a soya sauce sandwich may finally relieve me of the bakes and syrup.
It was weird, and and the weirdest thing is it would always seep through the sandwich. But again, I'm a huge sodium guy. I'm not a sweets guy by any stretch of the imagination. I love potato chips, all that kind of good stuff. And I'm sure that's got to be a huge part of why I have high blood pressure. But
jeez, So you didn't have those kind of responsibilities as a child. So were you just kind of thrown to the four winds when you went out on your own to have to like cook and take care of yourself?
You know what the weird thing is? So my parents moved back to Trinidad officially in when I was in my late 20s, and I had my first apartment or whatever. And oddly enough, instinctively, all the are we allowed to cuss or no? I don't know what the deal is. Okay, so all the shit that my parents used to do, the vacuuming and the cleaning the window with the gazette and the newspaper and all that kind of stuff, I started to do that. I couldn't believe it. Like in my first apartment, I would take out the screens and make sure the screens were clean, and like Windex and wipe down, make sure the bathroom was clean. So I guess through osmosis, and not wanting my parents to dead ashim, I picked up everything. So, and then the cooking thing came along. I knew how to cook, back then, but it was basic. And it wasn't until I got married that I started to take more of the responsibility of cooking, because I didn't want to be the guy who waits till his wife. Because again, being a comedian, I'm home in the day, and I work at night, and I didn't want to be my wife work whole day and then she come home and is like, all right, what's the dinner? So that's kind of like how I started to learn how to cook, and that's how I know how to make pilau and and all sorts of kind of crazy stuff like that too. So lasagna, ting ting. You know what I mean?
Right, good. I feel encouraged by that, because I feel somewhere out there my children are listening. So it's nice to know that there's hope. Like Windex, Gazette. You're saying
you plant the. I think when you plant the seed, real talk. I think when you plant the seed and they see. Moms like to do everything, because what would always happen if I tried to do something like, boy, you're not doing it properly. You're not doing it. Move. And then my mom would end up doing it. And then when they left, I was left to my own devices, and I didn't want to. I was never a nasty kid.
Yes,
but I mean,
we weren't afforded the luxury of
yeah,
that level
correct,
of nastiness.
correct. I mean, like my bedroom was my bedroom, but like outside of that, I mean, I had to wash dishes, I had to do this, I had to do that, and stuff like that. But once I was out on my own, and it's like, no, man, I can't. I ain't try to live like that. You know what I mean? So
yes.
The seed is planted and the foundation is there. That's the beautiful thing about it.
You see, you're making all the mothers in the comments feel very encouraged. I see Tanika Riley saying it's reassuring that they will get it one day. We just have to, Tanika, I guess we just have to move back home and leave them.
That's basically what happened. That's basically what happened. I'm not even lying. I'm not leaving somebody's fried.
That's okay. Yes. I have a plan. That's the plan. So is this where these legendary palau making skills developed? And we have an international audience, so you probably have to tell these people what the palau is.
So palau is ultimately what people don't realize. Palau is a struggle food, and it's rice, and it's got it might have pigeon peas, it might have whatever, it might have chicken, it might have stew, it might have beef, it might have whatever kind of meat you want to put in there. But it's basically you put it in. So it's rice. Ultimately, the basic ingredients I say are rice, coconut milk, whatever meat you want, whatever peas you want, and you just let it boil down, and then you have this big giant, I don't know what the correct term is, Dutch pot or whatever it is, yes. and you have food for days. That's struggle food. You know what I mean?
It's a one-pot meal.
Correct. You know what I mean? Yes. And so I knew palau from after limes, when my parents and uncles and everybody would come over, and there'd be alcohol and stuff like that, and in order to kind of soak up some of the alcohol,
yes,
you know what I mean, big pot of palau, everybody can't finish that big pot, like a giant pot, and you just spoon in plate or bowl and spoon, and you know what I mean, some salt meat, salt beef, and all that kind of, you know what I mean. So yes. And I always loved palau. It was an easy thing to eat. And there was always lots of it. And it was always good that it was, when it was cold. Does wild meat go in palau? Again, that's a personal preference. For me, I would say no. I would say no. Wild meat on its own should be enjoyed, for the delicacy that it is. I'm not a wild meat guy. My dad is from the country, and his whole thing is about wild meat, and you name it. And so my favorite thing I remember about wild meat and my dad is in Trinidad. For Carnival Saturday was Panorama Finals. And people would come over to the house in the day before they went to the savannah to listen to the Panorama Finals and stuff like that. And my dad had a wild meat cook, and I'm talking and again, these you can look these up, these colloquial terms on your own: manaku, lap, tattoo, guti, iguana, all that kind of stuff. And he would just have these things, and he'd have them labeled, and he was a huge hit because all his friends who like wild meat would come over, and every year Carnival Saturday, and they would eat that. And those are some of my most fondest memories of my dad and Trinidad and wild meat and carnival and that kind of stuff. So and my culture and my country, and so
wild meat is a wild thing. I see somebody in the comments knows what is lap. I'm gonna
lap
challenge you to define that there for us in the comments. But when I think of wild meat, I always remember as a child that it always seemed to come in a bucket. And I never knew what kind of animal would be looking at me if I went to go look in the bucket.
In the freezer. Oh, yeah. Ours was in the freezer. And people asked me to describe what manaku, because I remember the first time going into the freezer, because my grandfather hunted, and it was an excuse for him and his friends to go out and drink rum and fire guns in the forest and stuff.
And possibly come back with something.
Yeah, I mean, and then I remember opening the freezer at my grandparents' house, and this is how I describe it all the time. It was frozen, and it was just that's how I describe it all the time. So yeah.
I think
quank is another one, which I think is wild boar.
Yeah, I think agouti might have been the first one that I saw. And I tell you, Tanti didn't hunt, but she always had some willing person to just come and drop off a bucket by the kitchen door. And if you look in that bucket and you see what you see, she asks you, why are you so fast?
Who sent you?
Right, who said you? And the tail was all wound around.
Correct.
Oh,
correct.
I'm shuddering just yuck. Yeah, I'm not a fan of wild meat. More of a fan of the times that they were served, though, like simpler times. But I don't know if I want to find a bucket of iguana or whatever by my door today.
And the difference is, my family, both sides of my family are from the same, like both my parents are Trini, and they both grew up in the same town called Sangre Grande, which is in the east, and a small, very small town to this day. And so it was very, very, very simple people, which I love. I still love going to Grande. It's like being transported like a few decades back, just because simpler times, people know everybody. Hey neighbor, that kind of behavior.
Neighbor,
Yeah, I mean,
neighbor.
except when you cross the lighthouse in Port of Spain, nobody knows anybody. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that's a whole different world right there.
Correct. So
right. So is there anything that makes your pilau different and special, or are you by the book? Like you just do it the same
I'm literally
way
by the book. So people ask me how I learned to cook Trini food. There's literally a book called the Naparima Cookbook, which is infamous.
Yes.
So it used to be a paperback, now it's a hardcover. So I make everything from, I make dumplings, soup. I just follow the ingredients and the recipes in the Naparima Cookbook, and bam, bing bang, bing bang, boom.
Yes, we're going to put that out there now. If anybody's looking for a good wedding gift to give a young
Naparima
family just starting
Cookbook,
out,
the Naparima Girls Cookbook. So
Yes.
Naparima is I guess like a high school.
Yes, it's
it's a female high school, and they put out a book in the beginning to raise money, and then it became, dare I say, infamous.
Yes.
Worldwide,
legendary
legendary.
everywhere.
I mean, I have the original one I had is a pink soft cover paperback, and then now I have like a nice hardcover, big giant book and hardback. So you know what I mean, you can beat a child in the back with the book and thing. You know what I mean?
That's right, Naparima. All right. So when I asked you in our previous conversation, what is your favorite thing to eat? You said any kind of roti, and
Correct.
I quote, any kind of roti. You don't business. It's your favorite food.
Yeah. I like roti, and I think mostly because I love curry. And my grandmother used to call me Curry Pyong, which is that was her nickname for me. Curry Pyong. And anything curry I love, and I love roti. You know what I mean? Wrap paratha, bus up shots, dal puri, anything that I could just, you know what I mean? So it could be curry shrimp, curry beef, curry duck, curry goats,
Conchs, maybe
stewed beef. Not so much.
All right, so I know I could.
You know what it is? The conchs thing. I think it's the consistency of it, and I'm not a fan.
Tough.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the consistency. Boneless chicken, bone-in chicken. All that kind of good stuff. So I love roti, and I could live off of roti like for the rest of my life. If you like, hey, all you could do is I will eat roti till the day I die.
Can you make it?
No. But I do want to learn how to. I want to get a tawa, which is like the you know what I mean,
pan.
and then and then I want to make bus up shot, because I've seen people, you get to like just beat it, pop, 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 pop. So I want to learn how to do all that kind of stuff. So
I too want a tawa. I did not get a roti pan as a wedding gift, and this is when I think I knew the cultural tides were changing. That I didn't get the amount of iron that I was expecting. Like where's my? It's like, yeah, this is all great. Tupperware that I got, and whatever that white stuff is, Corningware, but I'm like, really, where's the tawa and where's my Dutch pot?
Correct.
These are things that I'm supposed to get.
Correct.
I shouldn't have to go and buy them myself, but here we are. So, what food you think is underappreciated?
That's a good question, man. I want to say dumpling, but I want to say Trini dumpling. Not Jamaican dumpling.
You got to be specific, because
not Jamaican dumpling, because dumpling is like Jamaican dumpling. I always say is more like a fry bake-ish kind of thing.
Yes.
But like Trini dumpling is like just flour based. Yeah, I mean, again, struggle food. Yeah, I mean, water, flour, and maybe some baking powder. I was gonna say baking soda, a little bit of baking powder so it'll rise. And you can eat that with anything. You can eat that with corned beef. You can eat that with buljol. You can eat that with saltfish. You can eat that with melon jen. You can eat that with stew. You know what I mean? It's the perfect side dish, and I just don't think enough people appreciate a nice dumpling. You know what I mean? Like, and you can make it anyway. You can make it long, like you know, when you roll plasticine,
No, you
or
mean
you
boil or
can
you mean fry?
boiled.
Boiled dumpling.
And then you could like cut it up in little pieces and drop it on the water, or you can make it flat. You know what I mean? So you could like cut it, but you have to be careful when it's on the plate, because if you cut it too hard, it'll just fling and
Exactly.
shoot off the
Just
plate.
fly off.
You know what I mean? So I think dumpling is probably, you know, Trini dumpling is probably some of the most underappreciated. Yes, I do.
So do you feel that it's underappreciated in the world, or do you feel that even Trinis themselves don't hold it in the high regard that you feel they should?
I don't think they should hold it up as so they more use it as a term of endearment as opposed to a term of food. You know, dumpling,
Right.
doodoo. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to, you know, something that you, I mean, technically they're both something you can eat. Okay, let's not go there. You know what I mean?
I know nothing about these things.
Both of them can slide off the plate. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All right.
So I'm just listening to all the people that started screaming in the background. Oh my!
I thought this was a family show.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, how you think you got here, right? So
hilarious.
Next, what we're going to do is what I call the speed round, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on with you. So the speed round is where I just throw a bunch of different words at you. I'm just going to suggest a bunch of different things. And for each one, you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Does it have to be a one-word answer or no?
No. You just tell me something that comes to mind. It could be an experience. It could be a something. I had about 7 things, but now I realize that I have to cross Manikou off the list because you already talked about that. But you see, it was on my list, right? See, I crossed it off my list. All right. So I have 6 more things to just fling at you, and you could just tell me something about yourself that resonates with you.
I got you.
All right. So mountain chicken.
Mountain chicken? I don't know what that is.
It's a frog.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You may call it something different. Have you eaten it?
No. I'm assuming you're talking about like crapo or some kind of.
Yes, like
crapo. Yeah. But no.
You've never eaten it?
I'm not a big frog fan.
Like, you're not a fan of the reptiles.
Not alive or in a pot. Nothing like that. Not the legs. No. Something looks creepy about it too. Like have you ever seen like frog legs? Like the upper part looks unbelievably and unnecessarily muscular, and then the bottom part is too skinny, and then it reminds me of them long Guyanese toes. You know what I mean? It's like,
So do you, just while I'm asking, do you have standard Caribbean reptile fear, like frogs, snakes, things like that?
I'm not afraid of animals like that, because lizards and stuff on the wall, but I'll tell you one story. I remember growing up in San Grande. At the end of the street, my grandparents on my mom's side lived on a street called Andre Street, which was just off of the main road in San Grande. And at the end of the road was friends of mine, and they had like this makeshift, like a weightlifting gym and stuff like that. And back in those days, they didn't have running water like these friends of ours, because country.
Yes.
So they had a latrine, outhouse. Yeah, I mean a latrine, which is just basically a wooden thing you sit on, and there's a hole in the ground, and literally, you just sit down. And I remember everybody. I was just lineman. I was a skinny kid. I didn't really work out like that. And then I remember hearing somebody went to use the latrine, and then there was this giant scream, and then they ran out, and then we went to see. And when they opened the door, they call it a macawel in Trinidad, which is like a giant, it's like basically like an anaconda.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was in the corner, and it was like curled back, like ready to strike. But it was like, maybe my imagination as a child made it a lot bigger.
Every time you tell
it seemed like, and it was just, and like the mouth was like, and so snakes I'm afraid of.
Yes.
Snakes I'm afraid of, but like everything else, all the other little ones, I just think they're gross, but I'm not afraid of them.
You come by it honestly. All right. So you're familiar with choka?
Yeah.
What's the best choka?
I would say tomato choka.
Tomato choka.
Because I like, again, back to when I was a kid, I used to eat tomatoes like they were apples. So I love tomatoes. I love anything tomato. I really do. It's tomato slices, tomatoes smashed down, tomato sauce, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Tomato choka, you know what I mean? So, and that was a big thing for me some Saturday morning. Saturday mornings were usually before grocery was done. It was whatever was left. So it was either a buljol or tomato choka, saltfish choka, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff with some fry bake or just bake or coconut bake or roast bake or some kind of, you know what I mean? Something. So tomato choka is the best favorite for me.
Nice. And then you did say that you like you like roti regardless of the form it takes, but I really have to know.
My favorite goat.
That's your favorite curry inside so that's your, like,
my favorite is goat roti. I love goat
favorite
roti.
Is goat.
Love goat roti. Love it.
And what about the outside now? Does it matter to you if it's dal puri versus paratha versus bus up shot, or is there any other kind that's worth talking about?
I would prefer either paratha. I'd say paratha or bus up shot, just because I like to be able to like pull and then dip, and then I can, you know what I mean, and then that kind of thing, as opposed to so I'd rather be able to Kija, it doesn't matter if it's boneless or not. I just like curry goat.
But when you eat it with the bones, do you crunch up the bones?
No.
You don't crunch them?
No. I don't need to taste the marrow. I don't. My parents, yes. But my parents used to spit out bone at the table, yet would get vexed with me because I put my elbows on the table, which I never got.
It's so true. Oh my goodness.
You go and do that in other people's house. My elbows? Really? Okay.
Yeah, you really have to wonder about these parents. They had some strong teeth, you know, like my mother could make a fine sawdust.
Correct.
Out of the bones and just have a pile of it beside her plate. Me, I don't know.
Keisha wants to know if extra pepper. No, as slight as possible. I immediately right here start to sweat. Immediately. Love callaloo. Callaloo is great. I think that's an underappreciated dumpling, and callaloo I think callaloo is an underappreciated dish.
Dasheen bosha, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Not with like the Jamaican callaloo, but like the one that you can drink as a soup or pour over rice.
With or without crab?
Oh, I love crab. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
It was great. That was Sunday, a traditional Sunday after evening dinner would be stew chicken, rice, callaloo, macaroni pie, watercress, dasheen, plantain, cassava, sweet potato. Am I missing anything? A salad, a regular salad, and can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I'm potentially some stew beef and stew chicken, that kind of thing. Never any curry, oddly enough.
Last week, our guest was talking about food. Our guest, Rasha, was saying that really you need to eat before you come on this show. And I'm thinking I really should be taking her advice, because all of this food is just making me, all this talk is making my mouth kind of water.
That's actually my other specialty dish is, and it's an easy dish, but macaroni pie. I make a pretty mean macaroni pie. So yeah,
that's good. So I know whose house I'm coming to this time, Christmas time. I know where your house I'm coming to. So I got two more. What's your best Trini drink? It could be soda pop. It could
rum, straight rum.
Okay, well, that was the other one. So your best Trini drink is rum, and your best Trini rum is what? What was that?
1787, and there's an 1824. So here's the thing. I grew up in Sangre Grande, which is like a little country. My favorite rum, I call it ghetto rum, is Fernandez Black Label. It's my favorite. It turns me into a maniac, but I love it. Like, it's proper sugar. But I also call it slave juice. I call it slave
juice.
I mean, because that's what we were on the plantations for, right? To cut and mine sugar cane, and it would be disrespectful to my ancestors if I didn't drink rum. So
yes, you got to. You do it for them.
For them, you know what I mean? Because I like to. You know what I mean? I'm about my people.
All right. So let's go from now. We've exhausted the cuisine because now I'm too hungry to continue talking about anything else.
And I'm gonna add this in, and I know you're not. This isn't a question or anything. Before we move on from food, I just want to mention this. One of the most things I'm super proud of culturally and food wise is the last a few years ago, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, because my parents aren't here and my relatives are, in Trinidad and whatnot. I decided I wanted my kids and my nieces and nephews to see us making pastel every year. So every year we have this family weekend where we just make pastels and dasheen bush. And
okay, so you have to tell them what pastels are.
Oh, pastel is like a Christmas. It's like a Christmas morning, I guess, dish. If I had to say, what's it like? It's almost like empanadas in Spanish, empanadas or whatever, but it's like cornmeal, and in the cornmeal there's like meat, usually ground beef, and sometimes you could put raisins in it, sometimes you put olives and like chopped up capers, and then you close it, and then you wrap it in dasheen bush, and then you steam it on Christmas morning. You eat it with chow chow, you eat it with pepper sauce. And it goes with the ham and the fresh break bread and all that kind of stuff.
Jamaicans, I believe they might know it as blue draws. And to our listeners, if you hey, I'm not Jamaican, so I ain't saying, I'm just telling you what I heard. But if anybody else has a name for it within your culture, where you boil the cornmeal in the banana leaf, and you make the cornmeal dumpling with the little flavors in it, you can just put it in the chat and tell us what you call it.
That's one of the things I'm super proud of, because in the beginning the kids weren't really interested, and then the next year they're like, "Are we making pastels this year?" And then now they help, and they're like, "Can I press and can I do?" And we have like a thing. We actually call it the Broken Press Pastel Company, is what it is, because the press is actually broken.
But you do what you can, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, that's good. And I also want to send out a shout out to our other comedian friend Roma with Sweet Hand Delights.
Yes,
you have it on a hat.
Yeah, Broken Press Pastel.
Press Pastel. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I mentioned Roma because Roma makes pastels for
she makes everything
every year.
Which is great. Shout out to Roma, man. Roma
I didn't get any this year, but I got
cultural ambassador, ambassador for the region and for the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Shout out to Roma, man, and happy belated birthday to Roma. I think
happy
it was last
birthday
week.
to Roma. Absolutely. So tell our listeners, how did you get started in comedy? How did we go from pilot to comedian?
Pilot I wanted because I wanted to see the world, and comedian happened when I experienced Eddie Murphy at 12, and then at 12 years old he had such an influence on me. But I've always loved comedy, even before Eddie Murphy. I was a huge Richard Pryor fan. Before we found out the monster he was, Bill Cosby, George Carlin, Robert Klein, like Steve Martin, you name it, so I was huge comedy fan. And then I experienced Eddie Murphy, the phenom, and I decided at 12 that's what I wanted to be, and I just kind of fixated. But I've always been funny as well. It's not like I just saw this guy and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to be that. I've always been from small, because one of my rest in peace, my uncle Lennox, one of my favorite compliments from him is that he would always laugh. He's like, "You're a real ass, you're a real ass," which is like the highest of highest compliments that you could receive from an elder. You know what I mean? Boy, I tell you, you're not just one ass, you're a real ass. So, but everybody was always super supportive in my comedy, until it started to affect my schoolwork, because but I think, and it wasn't that I think it was just that I wasn't challenged, and being an only child, luckily I didn't have anybody to be compared to. So I always say the name of my biography is going to be "I was too stupid to know better," and I just went for it, and I continued to go for it, and I didn't have anybody to compare myself to, and neither did I want to. And then eventually 2 things happened for me that I think changed the trajectory of my entire life. So how I started was a talent show in high school. It was my first foray into like real, trying it. And then I eventually at 19 bumped into some people might have heard of him, some people might not. You know, he's not that well known, but I bumped into Russell Peters at 19, and because we were very similar in we loved hip hop, we were, you know, two young brown kids or black kids. Well, I was black, he was brown, and we had very, very, very similar likes and comedic styles, and who we liked and who we loved and all that kind of stuff. And then he eventually introduced me to Kenny Robinson, and he introduced me to Kenny Robinson right at the inception of Kenny's legendary, to this day, Nubian Disciples of Prayer all black comedy show, which is the last Sunday, which has been kicking ass for the last 20, I guess officially I think it would be 27 years, because because the pandemic, it still sold out every month, yes, you know, for the last 27 years, which is insane to me. And what I love most about that is it's not just changed my life, but it has changed the Canadian comedy landscape forever. There's no putting it back in the box, and Kenny is solely responsible for that, and for giving me a career and allowing me to be able to flourish and find my voice on that stage, because my voice didn't always start off to what it is now. You know, it started off where I thought, you know, I needed to be Trini. Like in the beginning, I used to do my act solely in a Trini accent. Hey, everybody, what's going on? And it was actually Russell that was like, if you're going to do your Trini accent, do it as a character, because you don't speak like that for real. Speak how you speak. And if you're going to, you know, like how now I do my wife, I do my wife's voice and stuff like that in certain instances, or if I'm talking about, you know, that kind of thing. So that's ultimately how it happened for me. And I was lucky enough to have a small community that just grew and grew and grew to what it is, that includes yourself and so many other great comics of different ethnicities and genders and you know, religious backgrounds and stuff like that. And I love it. I love everything about it. I love being part of that. So,
and it's great from where I'm sitting. And what I find interesting is not just, you know, the fact that you do comedy, but it's all of the other work that comes out of that. Like right now, I'm particularly interested in your, I guess I'd call it your financial direction, where you're kind of putting out content and having serious conversations about where we sit as comedians with trying to make a living at this whole thing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that project?
I've partnered with a good friend of mine, George Hugh, who is just a financial wizard. And we have a project / business called Wealth Building No Joke. And what we're trying to do is, and we're not selling anything. We're not selling services. We're not selling anything. What he did for me was make me understand, because I didn't even know the term existed. So there's something called financial literacy. And so I've been living my entire life just doing whatever I wanted to do. You know what I mean? As far as, all right, cool, I'm not going to pay this credit card bill and let's see what happens, you know. And I didn't realize that having good, I mean, you hear the jokes about, you know, black people got bad credit. You know, oh my God, I got my phone bill in my child's name, and, you know, that kind of stuff. But what happened was, because my wife is so responsible and has a real job, and no, I'm not to say that I don't have a real job, but she has a traditional 9-to-5, not an entrepreneur, that kind of thing. So when we first bought our house, it was in her name. So then we had to renew the mortgage, and then it was like, hey, let's try to add me to it. And then once they realized how horrible my credit was, and then we just kind of did a post-mortem of, you know, it was like not paying phone bills, not paying this on time, not paying this at all, letting credit cards. It's like, all right, cool, here's my credit, don't pay it. And then it's like, all right, if I don't pay it, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? So my credit score was horrible. And then he was just like, no, man, you can't live like that. You know what I mean? You need to start formulating a plan and fixing this. And once you fix this, because I never in a million years thought, now we own rental property, and I never in a million years thought we would be able to afford the house we live in, let alone another house for other people to live in. You know what I mean? So We started to fix that, formulated a plan, and now I'm a lot more literate in the financial world. And he was like, hey, I think it's a great story, and what better way to get that information out by making it palatable, and making it digestible for people through humor. And I'm not saying that you make a joke about it all the time, but if you lighten the information, it's easier for people to take it in, right? So what we're trying to do is, one, put out some videos, and because now everything is social media and clips and stuff like that, as well as have seminars. And all we're trying to do is show people that, because the first thing you say to people now is like, you know what, you can afford a house. And then the first person says, oh, that's a good joke.
Yes,
and like, no, we're serious. You know what I mean? But there's process to it. You're not going to be able to buy a house right away. But if you put the plan in motion and make the adjustments where you can, anybody can do it. And that was my big thing, is like, if a joker like me can do this, anybody can do this. And hence the wealth building, no joke. And now I'm like I said, what are we, the owner? So we got I'd say 2 rental properties plus another house elsewhere, and the house we live in, and stuff like that. And never in a million years, I just want to be able to leave something for my kids and hopefully my grandkids. And I believe the term is called generational wealth, which is something we as a people don't speak about or attempt to even step into that arena. And I think we need to, and I think we have to. We don't just need to, we have to, and it can be done. We just need to put in that work and get that information out there. So wealth building, no joke. So if anybody is on Instagram or even Facebook, check out wealth building, no joke, and follow us. And we started up again. So
excellent. Yeah, I definitely want to encourage our viewers to go and check that out, because when I saw some of the earlier things, I was really, really intrigued, because these are really, really important conversations to have, but they can be so uncomfortable.
Correct.
Doing it through the lens of humor definitely makes it more palatable, and it's so necessary.
And don't be embarrassed, man. You are where you are, and if you are where you are, just know that that's where you are, but you don't have to stay there. That's all it is. And when I say I was really bad, like to the point where married to a woman for a long time. We've been married and together for a long time, and I was trying to hide my foolishness, that that I wasn't being responsible and paying my bills and all that kind of stuff, which affected the two of us, which is what she was mad at. She's like, I don't care if you're broke, just tell me. You know what I mean? Let's figure this out together and not be ashamed about having these conversations. And if you can't have this conversation with the closest person beside you who you're trying to build with, then who are you gonna have these conversations with?
Exactly.
So don't be ashamed, man. Just own it. You can't get comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's what you got to do. And then once you do that, nothing does butter you, boy. Once you realize and you fix your thing, you're good. You move on from there and you move up.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, normally this is where I would be asking what's next for you, but considering what time of year it is, I'd say that's an easy answer.
There's a lot going on for me. So I don't know how many people know I'm on-air correspondent, on location correspondent for Breakfast Television. So that's ongoing. In a couple weeks, I leave for Trinidad and Tobago with my family for Carnival. Woo! Mostly because we missed. So when the pandemic hit in 2020, we had decided that we were going to be responsible and not go to Trinidad for Carnival, not knowing that the world was going to shut down. So I can't miss the last one and miss the first one back after the pandemic. So we decided, let's go home and let's recharge, not recharge, but let's go soak up some of that energy, that Carnival energy. Cause people ask me to describe why I go home for Carnival, and I can't describe why. You just have to experience what it is. Like there's nothing like it. It's the most freeing experience in the entire world, and it's super empowering. And I love reveling and seeing people that look like me, and we just have such a good time when I come back, and I can start everything afresh once I reach here in February or end of March or beginning of March or whatever. And then also I have a show that I am hosting that you're on.
Hey.
On the 23rd of February at the Comedy Bar, which is at Bloor in Ossington. And it's yourself, it's Keisha Brownie, it's Marlon Palmer, aka Dude McFly. Who else is on that show? There's somebody else. I'm missing somebody. I know I'm missing somebody. There's who is the fourth person? It'll come to me. But we're doing that show that night, and we're also going to record an album for it. So because what I'm also trying to do is what Kenny did for me. Oh, Kevin Harrod is on the show as well. And what I'm trying to do with this and recording the album is I've had the luxury of being able to be on some comedy compilations and some comedy albums. And what that has allowed me to do, again, financially, is be in the system of satellite radio and spins. And then there's a company that sends you your residual checks. And what we all need to do is figure this out, because no one ever tells us these things. And while telling jokes and getting paid from a bar is great, it's great to receive a quarterly check that you weren't expecting for the work that you did, that you can even then use to, hit up Wealth Building No Joke and find out how you can reinvest that money, whether it be in stocks, whether it be in energy bonds, whether it be in putting money into a small down payment for a house, whether it's, a flip, whatever it is. What I'm trying to do is show our people the stuff that I was never showed. And I don't mean it this way, but I know the world is what it is. What the white boys already know, I want us to know that as well. And if I can help be the conduit for that, then I don't mind that being, some of the legacy that I'm known for in the comedy world. And so that's part of it. And then that same weekend, I'm recording my first solo comedy album. And then that's what I'm looking to do as well. So a lot going on.
People are blowing up the comments wanting to know, can they see a flyer? Can they get it this? Can they get it that? So finally, I guess I'll ask you, where can our viewers find out more about what's going on and consume your work and keep up with everything?
If it's actually on the screen on Instagram, Jean Paul Comedy. Or as my mom says, Jean Paul Comedy is probably the best place to get everything. Just because it's literally up to the minute, up to the day. I try to be as regular as possible and post stories and post regular posts that live on the timeline. And then you can interact with me there. But Jean Paul Comedy on Instagram and even on Facebook, if you want to check me there, is the best way. I'm always posting. I'm always keeping it up to date. And like I said, it's super present. And yeah, I'm really just trying to continue to be relevant, as well as interact with, and the reason I asked you to be on the compilation album is because I've obviously we know each other, we've seen each other. I think the first real show that we did was a Christmas show at Montana's that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh yeah.
At McCowan and 401.
Yeah.
And you were super new then, and then that was years ago. And then to now, I still very much monitor what's going on in my comedy community, especially in our specific community as well. And the work that the consistent work that I see you putting in, I like to reward people and give them, help them give that leg up that I never had, that Kenny gave me. But I still had to bang down the doors and stuff like that. So the doors that I've already opened with Kenny and by myself, I want to pass that on to you guys. So you guys, as Kenny always says, we don't have to kick in the back door. We can walk in through the front with our heads up held high.
In through the front door.
And that's what I want you guys to be able to do, is walk you through the front door with your hell's head high. And so I wanted to give you that opportunity. That's definitely what I wanted to do. I try to pass it on. Pay it forward.
I appreciate it, and I will definitely, follow from your example. We can, as we get it, we gotta pass it on to the next one.
It doesn't hurt to reach back. You know what I mean? It's I don't see why not. And I that's the legacy I want to continue to go on, because like I said, there's no putting it back in the box. What Kenny opened, there's no putting it back in the box, nor should it be attempted to be put back in the box. And some of the biggest names that have come out of Canadian comedy in the last little while, again, graced the stage from Russell Peters, who's the obvious. Dare I say, if I toot my own horn, myself, the Crystal Ferriers, the Keisha Brownies, the Dave Merhedges, you know what I mean? All these people who didn't have a stage to be able to stand on, the Arthur Simeons, you name it. There's a lot of big names out there And without Kenny, giving us a stage that we can tell our stories and own it and be proud of it, I'm not sure it would be as big and as influential as it is. And we're not stopping.
No, we are not. We are not stopping. Well, I want to thank you. Thank you so much, John Paul, for being here with Let 'Em Eat Laughs. I'm glad we could get you in before Carnival.
Last thing, Tobago Slim.
Yes.
The name Tobago Slim came from Kenny Robinson.
Ask.
Oh, were you going to ask? Okay.
No, I really was going to ask because
I
I'm
thought
like,
you were signing out. I thought we were signing out.
No, because I have to know. I just have to know.
So Kenny Robinson dubbed me Tobago Slim because Kenny Robinson, being from Chicago, has this gangster thing. So he always called me his how do you pronounce it? Consigliere or whatever, like his right hand man.
Second in command, yes.
So the right hand gangster name that he gave me was because I was always skinny. I used to be skinny when I started. And so he called me Tobago Slim, you know what I mean? And that name stuck with me forever. And I loved it. And I was like, even if you stop calling me Tobago Slim, I'll keep calling myself Tobago Slim. And I just love the ring that goes to it. And I love it because the country is Trinidad and Tobago. And Tobago normally doesn't get the love that Trinidad gets. And I love the fact that in the name Tobago Slim that I get to honor and represent the beautiful, beautiful people of our sister island, Tobago. So Tobago Slim it is, you know? Yeah.
Actually, I asked for a good story. I said, I hope there's a good story. And the fact that it's your gangster alter ego is better than what I was expecting.
Always repping the islands.
Tobago Slim.
Always repping the islands.
We're wishing you a good, safe trip. And if you survive Carnival, we'll see you back here at the end of February for album taping and the Nubian show. And on the 26th of February.
February 23rd. Make sure you come and check in OJ on stage at the Comedy Bar. Like I said, the flyer will be up probably tomorrow. And if not, it'll be up very shortly, but check out her page, check out my page. And on the 24th and 25th, I'll be recording my first solo album at the Burlington Yuck Yucks.
Road trip.
Yeah, so 8 p.m. And tickets are going pretty quickly, and I'm super excited. It's my first one, so it's going to be all love. It's going to be all love. Right.
Come out and support everyone. So thank you again for being here. Have a safe and great trip, and we'll see you soon.
Eat dumpling, people.
All right. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for enjoying our time with John Paul. Man, I'm hungry, but I couldn't leave without a few other small announcements. I'm just going to go right through them. I'm going to let you know about the exciting news that we just got today. Now, you may not have been aware of this, but there is a group called the Toronto Comedy All-Stars. Right. And all through last year, when they were presenting shows in and around the city, they kept a percentage of their earnings from their shows to put together a much needed comedy grant of $1,000 to support one stand-up comedian or tour group in the GTA towards a comedy project, and they would cover some or all of the associated costs. They recognize that money is often the biggest hurdle to taking the next step, so they wanted to help propel somebody forward in their career. And so the applications for that were due by the end of December. And so I was happy to put in an application on behalf of Bish Funny, and they did announce the winner today. So I'm happy to announce that Bish Funny will be putting together and publishing the Let 'Em Eat Laughs comedy cookbook. That was our project, and they announced today that we actually did win. So I'm very excited to get this grant and to be able to take the amazing content that we've had with the comedians on this show and their ideas and that of the great food that they've made and enjoyed throughout their lifetimes. We're going to be picking some of the best to put into this cookbook that will be available later on this year. I don't think John Paul's soy sauce sandwich is going to make the cut, but you never know. Maybe we'll vote on it. Maybe I'll leave it up to the to the audience. And finally, I'm just not finally. I should say, before we get to the finally, I'm just reminding you again that you can get your tickets for the Let 'Em Eat Laughs live on stage comedy show taking place here in Toronto on Sunday, February the 19th, featuring Lady Day, Crystal Ferrier, Cliff Knight, and myself, your host, NOJ. Now, next week, we'll be back here again, and we're launching next week on February the 9th at 9 p.m. our first Funny Foodie feature. So this is going to be our first guest. After we've had 3 seasons, we are finally going to have our first guest who is not a professional comedian, but instead a real funny personality on the culinary side of the equation. So join us next week to hang out with Chef Karima, and we're just going to have a funky good time. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Funny Bishness or on Facebook at Bish Funny so that you can keep up with all of the details. And the week after that, we'll be back with a guest that we had to skip a couple of weeks ago. Bougie Be Bougie is back in business and will be back again here with us on Let 'Em Eat Laughs 2 weeks from now. So next week, Chef Karima. The week after that, Bougie Be Bougie. We've got lots going on for Black History Month, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. I hope your belly is full of good vibes, and please have a very good night.